later on. So good morning everyone and welcome to today's event as part of the Suffolk Business Festival. Today's event is a 5 maths to increase your and your business's cyber resilience. I'm really glad to have you here today, and we're joined by today's event partner, Fiona Bail from the Eastern Cyber Resilience Centre. The annual Suffolk Business Festival is an opportunity for businesses to learn something new, find out what's happening in the local area, how to get involved, and also how you can access local support programmes as well. For 2022, our theme for the Business Festival is all things digital. So events include the launch of new digital support programs, digital and tech demos, information on local support digital programs, and also a wide range of workshops, webinars, and learning seminars. All events are being held virtually, so it enables you as a business to access the support and information more conveniently and just pop in during your working day. We have recorded events, podcasts, and also pre-recorded webinars in addition to our live events, and these have been made available on the Suffolk Business website on our new resources webpage. This is one of many live events scheduled, so if you want to sign up to any more, please visit our Suffolk Business website and sign up via the events page. And please note that today's event is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it back later if you miss any of it, or if you'd like to just review it again later on. If you'd like to ask any questions during today's event, please either submit a question via the Q&A button on the bottom bar of your screens, or add a question into the chat function. And if you could make sure that's to all attendees, that will just make sure it doesn't get missed, and we'll come to them at the end of the presentation. There'll also be a short poll run by my colleague Adam at the end of today's event, and that's just to help us kind of manage and work with for future activities and events and make sure that they're exactly what our business needs. I'm now pleased to hand over to Fiona Bail from the Eastern Cyber Resilience Centre. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you, Kay. Okay, so thank you very much for having me on first of all. Today we are going to just go through what the Eastern Cyber Resilience Centre is, so what we do and why, some of the local threats that you should be aware of with some examples, and then looking at what you can do to actually increase your cyber resilience, and then how the ECRC can actually help. So I'm a detective inspector. I was with Cambridgeshire Police before I was seconded to the ECRC, and I've come from a background of fraud and cyber. So I'm very aware of the impact that cybercrime actually has on the business community. So the Cyber Resilience Centres are a Home Office supported project, bringing together policing, industry experts and academia with the aim of increasing cyber resilience within small and medium businesses in the region. We're a not-for-profit membership organisation and led by police. And we're also part of a network of cyber resilience centres across the UK. So if you've got partner businesses who are in a different area, there should be a CRC near them who can also provide the same services and support. Increasing, and businesses are actually one of the biggest targets. Beaming's 5 years in cybersecurity found that 1.5 million organisations fell victim to cybercrime in 2019. So that equates to 25% of all UK businesses, compared to just 13% in 2015. And if we looked at those stats today after the pandemic and all of the changes that we've actually made to that online working, I think that figure will be even higher. So a report from the Cabinet Office estimated that the cost of cybercrime to the UK business to be £21 billion per year. And actually Action Fraud report a £50.9 million loss to businesses for the east of England in the last 13 months. And actually that's likely to be really underreported, as it's widely known that businesses don't actually report the cybercrime that they fall under. And cybercrime criminals aim to really follow the money. And although some do want to hack into systems just to wreak havoc, for most the main goal is to swindle and make money. And this can be directly through the stealing of banking credentials, or indirectly, such as the use of ransomware to get paid for the return of data, or even selling that data, such as login credentials, to other cyber criminals. So most people may not have been subjected to a traditional crime, such as an assault or burglary, but I'm fairly confident that all of you will have had at least one phishing email, text or call. So there are approximately 600,000 SMEs in the Eastern region, and unfortunately most businesses don't seem to recognise that they are a target for cyber criminals. They think they're too small, or they actually don't have any data that anybody will want. But criminals really target vulnerabilities. So in the same way that a burglar would prefer an unlocked house without CCTV, cyber criminals look for those easiest targets, and those are those without fundamental cybersecurity controls in place. And it's not that a cyber criminal is directly targeting one particular business. They use automation to actually scan for these vulnerabilities. So there are a range of internet-related threats to local businesses, but based on actual fraud data and investigation experience, the examples on the screen are actually current and are making impact in our region. So we're going to have a look at these in a little more detail so you can understand the threats facing your business. So impersonation attacks are a low form of cyber attack that uses social engineering to gain access to a system or network. The attacker impersonates or plays the role of someone that the victim is likely to trust, and they can be convincing enough to trick the victim into allowing access to information or systems. So when attackers are targeting organisations, members of human resources departments or finance teams are most likely to be impersonated. So what is business email compromise? So this is where criminals gain access to an employee's email account, and they've got two options after that access is gained. They can either use it as a direct tool for phishing, so maybe sending out an attachment with malware attached, or sending an email out changing the company's banking details to everyone in that contact list. Or they can monitor the account and actually look for information which can then be used to craft genuine looking phishing emails. So an example might be copying the email chain between a solicitor and their client, and then setting up an email account which closely mirrors the solicitor's account. So maybe using a 0 in the domain instead of an O, meaning that actually that funds are diverted. Most of this time, this attack is all about the money, but sometimes it's actually theft of data can also be the aim. This is quite an unsophisticated attack, and once access is gained, the results are actually quite successful, as the emails seem to be coming from a trusted source. So why wouldn't you actually open that email? So to give another example, I've got a short animation, which hopefully will work. So meet John. John uses the same email for work and personal use and the same password for all of his accounts. One of the websites he suffers a data breach, and his username and password are compromised. So a criminal gets that compromised data and tries that information to get into John's work email address. And they're successful because John has used the same password as in that compromised data breach. So John doesn't know they have got access to his email, but the criminal sets up an email forwarding rule. So any email with the words invoice, payment, bank details are actually sent to the criminal. The criminal can then respond to the customer with a change of bank details pretending to be John. So the customer pays the cyber criminal and not John, leading John's customer to lose money and for the customer to lose trust in John. And this could have actually been prevented through some fundamental cybersecurity controls. So moving on to phishing. Phishing is the most common way of cyber criminals attacking businesses. So to gauge your knowledge levels, we're going to play a little quiz. And I'm going to ask Kay and Adam to join in with me because I'm afraid you're the only two people I can see. So what is phishing? Where you try and catch fish. An example of incorrect spelling, a cyber attack which targets FTP connections, or a cyber attack where criminals impersonate legitimate organisations. Go on, Adam, I can see you're raring to go.
I'm going to go D, I guess.
You would be correct. So phishing is cyber attack where criminals impersonate legitimate organisation or individuals, and that can be by email, text, advertisements, any other means really, in order to steal sensitive information. So that could be clicking on a link, downloading malware, or sending your actual information to them. So what percentage of cyber threats start with a phishing email? 10, 29, 74, or 91? And I'm going to pick on Kay.
I'm going to guess C for this one.
It's in fact 91% of all cyber attacks start with the phishing email, which is why this area is actually so important to know about, and actually is really important for everybody in the company to know about, not just the top bosses. So what information can criminals use to create those phishing emails? So previous data breaches, social media posts, commonly available business information, or all of the above? Go on, Adam.
It's me. I'm going to go with all the above, I guess.
Absolutely. So there's a vast amount of information about companies and individuals available online. criminals use that information to craft genuine looking phishing emails. And they especially like data breaches because that actually has information that you would think would be private. So it might be something like your IP address, previous usernames, previous passwords, and actually even more. Oh, cheated on that one. What's the term for phishing via SMS messages? So vishing, smishing, text scamming, or SMS phishing? Kay, did you see the answer?
I did, it was B.
So yeah, smishing is phishing via text message. Phishing is by voice. But the terms aren't really important. The important thing to remember is that criminals will exploit all media channels, so your phone, email, text, social media, to send out those phishing messages. So what is spearfishing? So a cyber attack using password guessing. Phishing, standing in the water with a spear. A personalised phishing attack with messages modified to a specific person, or a phishing attack to all directors of a business.
I guess it's me. I'm going to go C, maybe.
You're right. Cool, you two are on it today. So yeah, criminals use information from various sources to craft a really personalised phishing email. And it's the personalisation which makes it a spear. They might find details of a partner organisation and use that information to impersonate them. They're really sophisticated attacks and actually can be really difficult to spot. So knowing what information is already in the public about a person or a company is actually really useful to understand what could be coming into a phishing attack. What are the key tactics used in crafting a phishing email? So sales, security, seriousness, urgency, authority, mimicry, and curiosity, want, need, hopes, intimidation, familiarity, scarcity.
I'd guess B.
And you're right again. So yeah, criminals understand human behavior. They really know what makes us act. So they craft these messages around these areas to get us to act before we can have a chance to actually think about what we're doing. And how do you report a phishing email? So you can just delete them, forward it to your email provider, forward to report@phishing.gov.uk, or forward to google.com.
I guess it's me. I don't know, it's quite tricky on this one. Maybe C. I don't know if that's
All right.
Okay.
So this email address actually goes through to the National Cybersecurity Centre. They review the emails and actually will seek to take down those domains responsible. So actually reporting rather than deleting protects your business, but also protects other people within the country. So as our quiz explained, phishing is the most common form of cyber attack. And as I said previously, I bet all of you have actually received at least one phishing email before. So for that reason, we're just going to actually have a look at a few examples about what those attacks might look like. So this is going to be a spear phishing example. So cyber criminals have targeted Donna from marketing. Now, Donna doesn't report to Nick, the CFO, so the scammers have assumed that she doesn't have Nick's phone number in a contact list, which means his name's not going to come up automatically, and or his name shouldn't come up automatically in a phone, so they can use any number that they want. So they've sent this message over the weekend to make it feel more urgent, and also that Donna probably doesn't want to talk over the phone on the weekend, whereas during the working day, she'd expect her boss to probably call her up. So to make this feel more urgent, the scammers have created a fake complaint letter from a key customer. And they've made it seem like Donna has done something wrong and that she needs to fix it. And it's that personal responsibility that putting on her that makes this really targeted. The scammers have then personalized the link with Nick's name, and they hope that it feels like a secure drive so that Donna actually thinks it's a legitimate link to click on. And then they build a bit of trust by saying that actually Donna was, I'll speak to you on Monday, and this builds credibility. So again, if you're thinking, well, it could be something dodgy, well, why are they going to be speaking to me on Monday? It must be genuine, otherwise they wouldn't do it. And it's these little things that criminals know build that trust in their messages. So Donna takes the bait and she logs into a fake Google login page with her real username and her password. And she does find a fake complaint letter so that she doesn't realise that she's hacked and report it. And that gives the criminals enough time to actually take over the account. And it won't be until Monday, where she's actually speaking to Nick, that she realizes that something has gone horribly wrong. So these are some examples of smishing. So that's using text messages for phishing. The parcel redelivery scam is one that's really common at the moment. So that link takes you through to a payment page, which for a small fee, that's usually less than £10, will get your parcel redelivered. So because there are a large number of people at home and actually a number of parcels being delivered, and with the extra Brexit charges, these type of text messages are really effective. Once you've paid, you actually get recontacted from the criminals claiming to be from your bank. And because they know that you've paid that money, they can provide that specific information saying at this time and this time, you paid this amount of money. That was a scam. I'm really sorry. And actually, they will then use some social engineering to get hold of your bank details. And people have ended up losing thousands of pounds because of them. And then the last example is Vishing. So this is impersonation over the phone. And I think this short video is a really good example about how they managed to trick you. So I think this video just shows how quickly criminals could actually get potentially your PIN number just by saying, oh, I didn't get it, and getting you to repeat it. It's the type of thing that we don't really pay much attention to. I mean, that's a really short clip, but actually in real life, criminals keep people on the phone for hours, and they will try multiple times to get this information. So where people actually fall victim of vishing and phishing, it's not their fault. And I think it's really important that business owners understand that if their staff fall for it, it's not about that they were stupid. These criminals can be really good at what they do. Oh. Sorry, I've lost my screen there. So phishing campaigns vastly vary on the actual sophistication, but ultimately they want to get the target to do something. So as we said before, phishing attacks use urgency, authority, mimicry and curiosity to get people to click links or download attachments. And actually some of the old ways of identifying a fish are not really reliable anymore. We used to say about checking the grammar and spelling, and although they do still sometimes have bad grammar and spelling, they are getting much better at actually making everything look believable. So really we need to start looking at checking the links that we're clicking on. And again, that's not always easy to spot. But what we're looking for is actually that domain and the protocol. So at the bottom, you can see ECRCcentre.co.uk, and actually that's your domain. Any change to that domain will take you to a different website. So on the right-hand side, you can see there's an extra C in there. So very small things which won't be noticed actually make a huge difference. And the same, if the protocol is HTTPS and you put in HTTP, again, that could actually divert you to a different website. So the ease that phishing attacks can occur means that companies really need to educate staff about the range of attacks, what to do if they receive one, and really have some regular staff awareness training. So these are the various ways that you can actually report phishing. So you can report a website, report an email, or report a text message. And actually that Outlook add-on, if you've got a business version of Outlook, then you can have a little button which then allows you to report directly. So it's literally a one click and you're done. And I think that helps businesses or staff to actually remember that this could be a phishing email. So moving on to ransomware. So ransomware is a type of malware which is a program designed to affect the running of your systems and devices. I'm sure everyone has heard of it before, but it encrypts your files, basically holds them hostage until you pay the money. So theoretically, when the victim pays the ransom amount, you get the decryption key, and then you can get access to your files or systems. Now, I've used the word theoretically because in many cases, the victim pays the amount that was required, but still doesn't receive the key. And it's usually paid in via cryptocurrency, such as something like Bitcoin or Monero. And the point is it makes it really difficult to track the criminal. So the SOFOR State of Ransom 2021 report said that the number of organisations deciding to pay a ransom has risen to 32% in 2001 compared to 26% last year. Sorry, the year before. That's the thing though, is that the same survey discovered that only 8% of those businesses got all of their data back, despite paying the money. Nearly a third, so 29%, couldn't recover more than half of their encrypted data. And then 80% of businesses that chose to pay to regain access to their systems got another ransomware attack, which half of businesses thought it was actually the same attackers again. So with regards to ransomware, prevention is definitely better than having to pay. So moving on to actually what 5 things can we do then to protect our businesses? So the first thing to do is look at your passwords. Passwords are one of the most important and also one of the easiest things that you can do to improve your cyber resilience. Strong passwords make it harder for unauthorized people to gain access to your accounts. And sort of going to a comparison on a physical location, would you secure your business with a broken lock? Or actually, would you have strong front door locks, window locks, CCTV, and even more to protect that physical asset? And we need to think of our data as actually those type of assets. So what does a strong password look like? A strong password is one that's unique, so it won't be found on any password lists or involved in any other account being involved in a data breach. And it should also be complex, which means having a mixture of lowercase, uppercase, numbers, and symbols. So the National Cybersecurity Centre suggests using 3 random words to help build that complexity into a password. So you think of something that's happened and take 3 words from that memory and then combine them randomly. So in our example, from the tree fell down, smashed the fence and the dog escaped, we get escaped, smashed, tree. We add in some capital letters. So in this example, I've capitalized each vowel and just add in a couple of special characters and numbers. And then you've got a really strong, unique password. So that password will take over 1 million years to break if we were brute forcing it. So just doing those random attempts. However, it's no longer a safe password to use because I've shared it with you all and this presentation is going to be available to go onto the internet. It means that this might actually end up in a password list for a criminal, and so will be one of the very first ones that they now try. So it's all about having secret passwords as well and not sharing them. So why are passwords a problem? So a large number of people use the same password for both their work and personal accounts. And if a criminal gets to know what that password is, such as it being involved in that data breach, then they'll try that password in all of the accounts that they can find, especially the email and social media. So in 2012, LinkedIn suffered a data breach which compromised the usernames and passwords of all of the users of the site. So that was around 117 million people. A researcher in 2016, when Donald Trump was a presidential candidate, he looked to see if Donald Trump was part of that data breach, and he was. And he hadn't changed his password. So 4 years later on, meaning that that researcher could have taken over his LinkedIn account with all of his connections. And his password in that data breach was "you're fired," which is probably linked to him being the boss on the American version of The Apprentice. So not only was his password compromised, but he had a weak one was actually really guessable if anyone knew him. So what should you do? The first thing to understand is if you've already got compromised data. Have I Been Pwned is a free-to-use database comprised of publicly available data breaches. It allows you to search against your email, your telephone number, passwords, to actually see if your details have been compromised. And it's also got a special bit for businesses where you can register your domain, and it will tell you whether your domain appears in any new data breaches. And you can actually do a search on your domain as well. So where you're looking after a business, you can actually look to make sure that none of your employees' accounts have also been compromised. So if you've got a compromised password, then you need to change that password. Be surprised at the number of people who check and still don't change that password, but you need to change it on there and anywhere else that you've used that password. So remember, passwords should be strong and unique to each account and complex. And actually doing this check might be the time that you can then start initiating that uniqueness across your accounts. And also make sure you tell your friends and family. You know, use this session to actually help protect other people that you know. So the director of the ECRC did this check a little while ago, and he found that his credentials were part of a data breach from his kids downloading and playing games on his devices around 2014. He then realised it was probably how his Amazon and his EE account got hacked around the same time as that data breach. He'd used his email and the same password or the kids had used it as for all of his accounts. So they were able to go in. And in the case of EE, they ordered a nice £900 phone. And he really struggled to get that order cancelled because the criminals had gone in and also changed his password for his EE account, which obviously caused a lot of stress at the time. So unique and complex passwords are a must. But most people have between 60 and 100 online accounts, and remembering 100 strong unique passwords can be a little bit tricky. So you could write them down in a notebook, but that notebook you have to keep secure. So keep it in a safe or a locked drawer if you're not using it. Or the easier option is probably to consider a password manager. So a password manager is an application which stores your passwords for you in an encrypted vault. You have to remember one strong password, but that gets you access to the rest of the vault where your passwords are stored. So as well as only having to remember one password, they generate super strong passwords. So you don't even have to think up a way of creating that strong password. They autofill your details into login screens, so you don't have to type your username and password, which is actually a protection against keyloggers. And because they recognize the website URL of your accounts, if a site you go to doesn't match, it doesn't autofill for you. And if you're then visiting Amazon where it normally autofills, that might give you an indication about, well, am I actually on the right Amazon site? You may give that little thing about, oh, check the URL. How did I get here? Did I click a link somewhere? So actually can help protect you from phishing as well. So once you have unique and complex passwords sorted out, you should think about enabling two-factor authentication on any account you can. So two-factor authentication is where you provide two pieces of information to prove who you are. Multi-factor authentication just means that you provide two or more pieces of information. It provides a way to double check that you're really the person you are claiming to be when you use online services. So there are three types of information you could be asked for. Something you know, that's usually your password or PIN. Something you have, this could be a code sent to your text message or to an authenticator app. And finally, something you are. So that's your biometric data, so your fingerprints, retinal scan, or even voice recording. If you think about it, we all use two-factor authentication every time you go to a cash point. You have to have possession of your bank card and knowledge of your PIN in order to withdraw that money. So why are 2FA, why is it required? So passwords are everywhere. And as we've said, most users now have around 100 passwords. And even with strong passwords, they can only provide so much protection from your account. Your passwords could be stolen via a data breach, using malware, or by tricking you in a phishing attack. So two-factor authentication prevents access to your accounts using just this information because the criminal doesn't have that second verification factor. The only bit they have is the something you know. So going right back to our scenario with John and his emails, if he had two-factor authentication set up in his email account, they would have never been able to get into his emails in the first instance because they would only have his username and password. They wouldn't have that second verification factor. So you need to identify and set up 2FA or MFA on all of your vital accounts. Now, everybody's list is going to be different, but consider any account where your detail payments are stored as a must, because you don't want a criminal to be able to buy things using your money. And the other important account is really your email for both personal and business use, and that's to protect you from two different scenarios. The first is that when you forget a password, most password resets are actually sent to your email address, which means if a criminal has access to your email address, they can reset any password for any account and potentially lock you out. And that can be devastating if that's your business's website or social media account. And the second scenario is the one that we spoke about before, that business email compromise, and actually preventing people getting access to your email account to be then used in further phishing or scams. You should also consider if there are any applications which your business uses, which if a criminal gained access to could severely impact your business. So that could be a customer relations management system or a particular database which holds key information. So once you've changed your password, used your password manager, set up two-factor authentication, you then need to understand some other key concepts. So the NCSC has a really great starting questionnaire to highlight the key areas which you need to consider. So this is what it looks like. It's either for businesses, but you can also do it for individuals. So actually, as a really good conversation starter for actually building staff awareness training could be getting all of your staff to do the "have I been pwned" check, what's their current data, and then actually getting them also to create their own cyber action plan. And they will then have a better understanding about what the business needs to do to protect itself, but also how to protect their own individual accounts and their family. So the action plan looks at these areas, and we're just going to talk through why they're so important for businesses. So as you can see, we've already looked at passwords and phishing, so we're going to look at the other areas. So backups. If you do fall victim to a cyber attack, then backups will limit the downtime. So that's the time the company can't function. And it's not just a case of a cyber attack, but actually, if all of your data is on a single laptop and that laptop gets stolen, how would your company function? So backups should be offline. So if the cyber attack encrypts your files, such as like ransomware, then it shouldn't be able to transmit to those backup files as they won't be connected to the network. Automatic, so you don't have to worry about remembering them, but also tested. And this is a key one, really. Research into ransomware shows that victims pay the ransom even though they have really good quality backups. And why? Because they didn't test that recovery process. So some of them realized that they had a few petabytes of data, which was going to take them 3 months to download. I'm not sure that a business survived 3 months of not being able to trade. Or actually the information they needed to recover that files was within the system that was encrypted, i.e. they didn't know how to access their backup because everything was on that encrypted drive. So testing your recovery is really essential. And within that backup, you really should be thinking about what's the key information that I need to make my business function. Whose email boxes am I going to recover first? Is it going to be the CEO, or actually is it going to be the sales team? What is it going to be, the customer data that you recover, or holiday calendars? So actually knowing what's your priority as well in terms of your backup will really help businesses recover quickly. So the next one is protection from malware. And this might seem really silly, but if you've got anti-malware or virus software, turn it on. And it needs to be installed on all of your devices. So not just your laptop or your desktop, it should be on your phones and your tablets as well, because these are actually computers at the end of the day, and we're using them more and more for work purposes. So you need to make sure that you've got protection on everything. Download from only approved app stores. Criminals love to make us think that we are getting something genuine, and they will try and maybe do a special offer onto a website, download it from the website instead of the Play Store. But that's a way of actually getting malicious applications into it. So make sure that everyone within your business knows only approved apps are allowed. Keeping your IT up to date, that's all around limiting the number of vulnerabilities that exist on a system. So when a vulnerability is announced, it's not just announced to the people who have that system, it's announced to the whole wide world, including cyber criminals. So they're going to look at those vulnerabilities and go, oh, is that one I can exploit? Is that one I can do an automatic scan of the entire internet, or even just my little area, see which businesses have that vulnerability and see the ones that have not done that security update. So making sure that you install that security update as soon as possible is really, really key. And then control the use of USB sticks. There's a phrase saying, if you don't know where it's been, don't plug it in. And I think it probably was taken out of context, but anyway, USB sticks, there is something that's gone around recently within America, actually companies receiving USB sticks with malware put onto it. They've obviously been targeting high value firms or those with intellectual property. But if you don't know where a USB is, don't let people just have access to your system using it. If you have to use USB sticks, there are ways to actually segregate areas of your computer so it doesn't talk to the rest of the network until you've actually been able to do a full virus scan on it. And the last one is switch from your firewall. Your firewall acts like a security guard for a business. It looks at the traffic coming in and sees if there's something that would say it's malicious or suspicious and says, nope, you're not coming in. Like a security guard might recognize previous shoplifters and say, sorry, you can't come into the store today. The firewall is there to actually try and limit the traffic coming through to your network. And the last one is around keeping your devices safe. So switch on your password protection, making sure that if a device gets lost or stolen, you can track it, you can lock it remotely, and also you can wipe that data on it if you can't get it back. The same thing, keeping devices and apps up to date. So it's not just your main operating system that needs to be updated. The applications that you use need to be updated as well. And don't connect to unknown Wi-Fi hotspots unless you're using a virtual private network. There are ways that you can connect or set up a Wi-Fi hotspot which looks legitimate, but actually monitors all of the traffic you're sending. So if you are sending things like usernames and passwords across it, they could potentially capture that information. It is really rare, but it's one of those things that actually, if you're using public Wi-Fi, maybe hotspot to your own phone because it's a trusted thing, or use a VPN, it just limits your risk exposure. And then the last thing I want to talk about is about staff awareness. So as we've sort of said, phishing is the massive business risk. It's the one that most businesses are going to have. If your staff are more aware about actually the ways that cyber criminals want to get into your business, they're going to be more likely to actually question those odd links or those odd emails, and actually more likely to protect your business as well. They can be the most valuable resource a business has to protect against cybercrime. And then you've got some free tools. So there's obviously the action plan we've spoken about, but the NCSC have free staff awareness training. It's about a 10 to 15 minute questions sort of answer set, but again, a really good starting place for free. And then your local police protect officer can also deliver free staff awareness sessions for you. So if you want to take advantage of that, just speak to me afterwards. So moving on to how the ECRC can actually help. So we offer free of charge membership. That gives access to national guidance. So we share national guidance as well as regional crime trends. So you can become aware of how criminals are actually targeting businesses in the East. You get a Little Steps weekly email. So businesses can consider one aspect of cyber resilience in little bite-sized chunks. Because actually what I've spoken about today is quite a lot to throw at you. And then you might not have taken all of the various bits in. So by just having that weekly email gives you that little chance to digest it and actually implement those security steps. And also helps you access affordable cyber resilience services. So that's us signposting you to some free tools. And then we have student services who I'll speak to you about in a moment, as well as our trusted partner network. So part of the centre's aim is to help businesses get to the stage where they're ready for Cyber Essentials. Now, Cyber Essentials is a government-backed scheme, which is like an annual review of your cybersecurity and helps you stop falling victim to the common cyber threats. So it's almost like an annual MOT for your business's cyber resilience. Now, our trusted partners are accreditation bodies within the Eastern region. And if you want to take that sort of route, we can actually refer you directly to them once you're ready. But by implementing the controls within Cyber Essentials, between 60 and 90% of attacks will be fully or partially mitigated. So actually, this is reducing the risk to businesses massively. And then I mentioned burglars liked houses without CCTV. Well, police cyber alarm is like that CCTV for your network. It's a police-led project to help businesses and organisations understand and monitor suspicious activity. It's a free tool, and it detects and provides regular reports of suspected malicious activity, which helps to protect your business. Once you become a police cyber alarm member, you install a virtual server on your system, which is used to collect and process traffic logs, identifying that suspicious activity from your firewall or internet gateway. which enables then you to put mitigation in place to defend yourself. So it doesn't interfere with your normal network operation, and it doesn't collect any traffic content with personal data involved. It's purely a mechanism to actually tell you, these are some very dodgy things coming into your system. I think you should do something about it. So moving on to our affordable student services, the Eastern Cyber Resilience Centre provides 8 cyber resilience services designed specially for smaller businesses, including the self-employed and third sector. So we deliver this through an innovative UK talent pipeline programme, where local universities in cyber skills partner with us to provide commercial training and oversight for students to deliver this work, which means that businesses can get affordable priority cyber resilience services tailored for their organisation, and then we can actually speed up the UK talent with high quality work experience, as well as that technical skills. They obviously got exposure to those softer skills, so actually writing those reports and actually speaking to customers. So that will have them ready to ensure that law enforcement, defence and critical national infrastructure can help fulfil their skills gap, which helps protect us all at home and at work. And they will get trained and mentored with some of the best senior ethical hackers around. So we provide 3 types of vulnerability assessment. So that's internal, remote and web app. And these assessments are designed to inform organisations about weaknesses present and actually direction on how to reduce those risks that the weaknesses caused. For businesses maybe who want to reduce their security risk, a vulnerability assessment is a really good place to start. You get a plain language interpretation report of the results and how any vulnerabilities might be used by an attacker, as well as instructions on how they might also be fixed. So we provide 2 different internet investigations, one for an individual and one as a business for a whole. And again, looking at that phishing threat, by knowing what's already around about a CEO or a company, can actually inform businesses about potential targets. So maybe a business just published details about a new deal with a supplier who isn't cyber secure. Could they become a target in the future to actually get to you? Or does the CEO's upcoming visit to an offshore conference give the perfect start to a "I need you to transfer this money now" style phishing email? And then we also offer security policy review to ensure that the policies you have are current for what threats your business face, as well as a business continuity planning. So today it is unfortunately when you are a victim of cybercrime and not if you are. So tabletop exercises can actually test that planning to see if you are prepared for that when it happens. And phishing is obviously still the greatest cyber threat. So your staff need to be aware of the risks, and we can do a bespoke package of cyber awareness training to sort of go through and follow on maybe from the free resources that we've already spoken about. So 5 areas to protect your business. So passwords, unique, complex, enable the 2-factor authentication. Avoiding phishing, make sure your staff know the threat and also know how to report it. Backups, they should be offline, automatic and tested. Protection from malware, make sure it's on all of your devices. Keeping your devices safe, password protection, and installing those updates. And then 5 things to do today. If you do nothing else after listening to the presentation, please do these 5 things. Passwords are the easiest thing to make you and your company more cyber resilient. If you want more details about how passwords actually impact you, we've got loads of videos on our YouTube site. But the main thing is, don't use the same password across multiple sites. The risk is if those details get released in data breach, then any account where you've used that password could be accessed. And that's really bad if it's your email account. Make sure your passwords are complex. So if you're not going to use a password manager, think about using NCSC's recommended those 3 random words. And enable your 2-factor authentication, especially on your email accounts and your social media accounts. If criminals get into your email, as well as pretending to be you or someone you're talking to, they can reset those passwords for any other account. And social media is important as this is your shopfront in that digital world. And if a criminal gains access and locks you out, it's really difficult to get back into control. And during that time period, you won't be able to contact your customers, and you'll have no control over what that criminal is posting about posing as you. And the last 2 then are all around that haveibeenpwned.com. Make sure you are checking your current exposure, make sure your staff are checking their exposure, and make sure you register your domain on there so you become aware of what data breaches are actually going to be affecting you and your company. So in summary, this CRC is a new way of working for police. We've handed over some of our crime prevention responsibilities to the ECRC as a police-led but not-for-profit business. So cybercrime is a growing problem, and if you're online, you are a target no matter how small you are. So if you do realise that you're a target and you don't know where to start or who to trust, the ECRC hopefully is that starting point for you. So with our free of charge membership, really to help you get started on your cyber resilience journey. Ultimately, we are here to help. I don't think that's taken me as much time as I thought it would, so I'm free for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Fiona. Yes, if anyone's got any questions, please put them in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand as well and I can unmute you. Just in the meantime as well, so everyone's aware, Fiona is running a follow-up event next Thursday on the 17th of February on conversations to have with your IT to increase your business's cyber resilience as well, in case you're interested, and you can sign up via the Suffolk Business website for that one as well. So I don't know if anyone's got any questions. I'll give you a minute, otherwise Adam will start the attendee poll. Just give people 1 minute.
Is that a fine last question, Kate?
Yeah, of course, go for it, Adam.
Great stuff. So if your email does appear on that website where you can check whether you've been what would you suggest doing then? Would you suggest just changing your passwords, or what would your advice be just on that?
So when that comes up, it actually gives you details about that data breach. So firstly is have a look at that data breach and actually see what information has been released about you. So it could be that you've got your passwords, your usernames, it could be your IP address, it could be your own home address and your telephone number as well. So just be aware of actually what information criminals might have. And then really the number one thing is definitely change the password on that account, and then think about, have I used that password anywhere else? And if you have, again, you need to change it. One of the other considerations for around passwords is actually your security questions. So Facebook and LinkedIn love to do those polls about, where were you born, or what's your top 5 flavors of ice cream? But they're also the ones that show up on our security questions. So be really careful about answering those type of polls, and actually within your security question set, consider lying, quite frankly. No one's going to know whether you're telling the truth on them. So it doesn't matter if you were born in Peterborough, say that you're born in Seychelles. Don't use, I suppose, real information on those security questions, because actually people can find out those basic ones, especially like mother's maiden name, if you've got access to a birth test register. So just another consideration for you.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Never thought about that actually. Yeah, fair enough. And just on the two-factor authentication, is that something that's available for like Outlook and stuff as well? Is it something specifically got signed up separately for, or?
So two-factor authentication for Outlook will be, if you've got your own personal Office account, then yes, you can set it up yourself. Otherwise, it will be through your IT control, whoever sort of deals with that. They should set it up. So again, looking at what use you're doing. So if you have it on your phone and your computer, but your computer's always in the office, then that's probably a trusted place. You're not going to misplace it. You're not going to sort of change the way you access it. So your two-factor authentication might last a week, say, on your computer, because there are ways of actually saying, yes, this device is safe. On your phone, where you that might only last a day or even an hour because of the mobile nature of it. So again, when you're setting up those type of things, it's a consideration about how frequently you need that two-factor to re-authenticate, I guess, because there is malware now who specifically look for the tokens that you get in two-factor authentication. So if you've got a two-factor authentication you've done once and it lasts a year, it's not much of a two-factor authentication, because if they get into your computer, then they've got those cookies that they can then use. So the 2FA does have to actually be used.
Okay.
It's not just a one-time thing.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks for that. Great stuff.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Fiona. I haven't got any other questions here. So, Adam, if you want to quickly launch that poll, and if everyone could just answer it that it's in the attendees, please. It just helps us see what we want to focus on future activities and events in the future. It'll only take you 1 minute. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for completing that. So that's everything from us today. Thank you to Fiona for your time and fantastic presentation. I've definitely learned something. Obviously, if you'd like to take part in future events and activities within the Business Festival, there's some links on your screen. Please visit our eSuffolk Means Business website and visit the eSuffolk Digital Business Festival webpage. You can also follow us on our social media via at ESM BBiz and via our Facebook page for our latest updates. And if you need anything else from the Economic Development team at eSuffolk, our contact details are on the screen for you, from our manager through the leads for different sectors and areas within the team, and also our support officers as well. Thank you ever so much, and thank you for your time today. It's been great to have you all here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Fiona.